If you are on the twin flame journey, then you know, there are encounters you never forget, and some of them come on wings. Stay until the end, because what I am going to tell you today might make you pause the next time you see a crow. Crows have fascinated humanity for thousands of years, because they are not only among the most intelligent animals in the world, capable of problem solving, recognizing faces, and even passing on knowledge to their fellow creatures, but they also carry a deep mystical meaning that runs through almost all cultures on Earth. In Celtic mythology, they were considered companions of the goddess Morrigan, ruler of fate and transformation. In the Nordic tradition, Odin's ravens Hugin and Munin flew through all the worlds every day and brought the father of the gods thought and memory in return. In the Japanese tradition, the three-legged crow Yatagarasu is a divine messenger of the sun. And in many indigenous cultures of North America, the crow is considered a bridge between the physical and the spiritual world. So what does it mean when crows suddenly enter your life, keep appearing, follow you on your paths, and it feels as if these animals have a message for you? That is exactly what happened to me, and in this video I am telling you my story, and also why birds are considered a symbol of the soul in many cultures. At some point, when the world and the twin flame journey were becoming more and more magical, I looked out of the window into the autumn garden and spotted a crow going about its bird business, which was very unusual, because I cannot remember ever having seen a crow in the garden here. This is magpie territory. Only those fat pigeons, or occasionally a songbird, wander into the backyard garden. The very next day on my way to work I noticed several crows at once. One was carrying a twig in its beak, another was pecking at something on the ground, and then a handful more in a tree. At work I noticed that a single crow was sitting right at the top of a tree's crown within sight. In the following days and weeks I saw crows every day. I cannot rule out that I perceived the crows so frequently because I had started paying attention from that day on, and my conscious attention had directed itself toward noticing these animals, but it was strange nonetheless. I remembered what I had heard about animal companions that appear at a certain point on the soul journey, but I had actually always had such companions in the form of my pets. I had no connection or bond with crows whatsoever up to that point, so it was strange that they suddenly came into focus like this. One day in autumn of that year has stayed particularly in my memory. I was cycling on my way to a friend's place when I suddenly registered several dozen crows sitting in the trees and sailing over that stretch of road, cawing and apparently in an uproar. It was a mystical and magical scene. A long road through a desolate industrial area. In the background on the horizon a beautifully picturesque sunset was announcing itself despite the bad weather that day, an orange-reddish sun pressing through the masses of clouds. At a construction site a larger flock had gathered. I stopped to take a photo, and all at once they all flew away, crisscrossing the road back and forth. Something was going on there. I felt a little like in the old film, The Birds. I made a video with my phone. Regardless of my story, it was a spectacular natural spectacle, only to then discover that I had not pressed the record button properly. A shame, but I had seen it, and that was enough for me. The event had brought a magical end to an exhausting workday. The following evening I noticed a crow settling into the tree at my bedroom window to sleep. The next day there were two, who have been spending their nights there ever since, even in pouring rain. Worth noting that it is the only tree with crows in my street. When birds roost there they are normally the aforementioned pigeons or magpies. I soon found out that a larger flock of crows had taken up permanent residence in the nearby park, which was also unusual. A population that large would have caught my attention in the years before. I had always been attentive when it came to nature and wildlife, no idea where all those birds had suddenly come from. From then on the birds regularly escorted me on my way to work, and around the area near the train station individual crows were now moving about, catching my eye immediately as I cycled past. Naturally one day I began feeding my newly found friends in the park whenever I had something for my feathered colleagues with me. That was the passage from my book. Here is what else happened. With the arrival of spring the large flock in the park dispersed. There are now only individual crows that still accompany me on my paths. A small group stays in my neighborhood. The call of the crows rings out regularly and reminds me of the magic of that time whenever I might forget it. What I have noticed over the past months is that they usually appear exactly when you think about them or talk about them. I have already had some interesting situations with that. I have also received a small gift. When I had to wait at a traffic light on my bike, a crow dropped a small plastic object in flight which I picked up. Crows are known for doing things like that, bringing small gifts to allied humans who feed them. What is also interesting is that a friend had a very realistic dream about a giant crow with 2 heads, which she told me about. I myself had a dream in which a crow appeared and seemed to warn me about a person, and the next time I drove past that person's apartment a single crow was walking around there. Then some mysterious digital coincidences involving crows occurred. For example, a mysterious channel appeared in my algorithm, a small foreign channel that had previously made completely different content and was now making German crow videos, and strange coincidences arose that connected to my own experiences. During meditation I tried to connect with the crows, and I received an explanation about the nature of nature and what a tree is in comparison to birds and humans. When it comes to receiving messages like that, you can imagine a lot of things, and it is not always easy to distinguish whether the impulse is really coming from inside or outside, but the trains of thought that emerged were unusual and did not correspond to my own mind. On another occasion, if you are interested in the spiritual meaning of crows and want to find out more about these intelligent birds, you will find a link to an interesting article in the video description, and here on YouTube you will also find many good videos about our feathered friends. And did you actually know that birds in almost all great traditions of the world are considered a symbol of the soul, because in ancient Egypt the Ba, one of the soul aspects of a human being, was depicted directly as a bird-shaped creature with a human head that leaves the body after death and travels between the worlds. In ancient Greece the soul was imagined as a small winged human that leaves the body at death. In Nordic and Celtic belief the souls of the deceased returned in the form of birds, and in shamanic traditions worldwide the shaman travels in bird form into the spirit world. The flying bird is the universal archetypal image of the free bodiless soul, and perhaps that is exactly why it is no coincidence that crows of all things, these ancient companions of the gods and messengers between the worlds, have such a deep and inexplicable effect on so many people. Thank you so much for your attention and for watching until the end. I would be very happy about a like or a comment. Spread your wings and hold your frequency. Until the next video.